Welcome to Creating and Embedding Interactive Content, and specifically for D2L Brightspace courses. My name is Chelsea Dubé, and in this webinar, we're going to be covering reasons why you can consider creating and embedding this interactive content, how interactive content situates itself inside of online learning. And then, for the most part, we will walk through how to create these types of elements. We'll be working with a cloud-based or web-based software called H5P, which stands for HTML5 package. HTML5 is just a language that allows us to build interactive elements without necessarily having to know any sort of program languages. So H5P is currently free, which is really great because historically, building and creating these types of online interactions was hugely expensive. It involved a lot of programming knowledge. It involved a lot of developer skills. And so now H5P has wrapped that all up and made it into an approachable WYSIWYG editor, so something that you could do completely online for free and then embed into your courses. So we'll walk through some examples of what H5P can do, and then what those examples would look like in D2L. So we'll hopefully get to touch on 4 or 5 of those. Okay. So objectives for the webinar. I need, hopefully at the end of this webinar, you'll be able to first evaluate when it's appropriate to add interactive elements to an online course. Sometimes it's more appropriate than others. You have to think about the level of the course, the audience, how many interactions are already in there, all that good stuff. Also, by the end of the session, you'll be able to locate the H5P website as well as create an account and access the website on your own. And then we're going to go through 4 different types of interactive content. We're going to create each of those 4 using the interactions editor. Then we'll take each of those 4 content types and embed them in different places inside of Brightspace, inside of our D2L online classes. So that's going to be a pretty tall order. So the first thing I want to talk about before we begin is, what is your current course? What are you doing in your current course that encourages collaboration and interaction? Now, we know from the literature that sometimes our students are leaving courses, and this is not ETSU specific, just in general, higher ed in general. Students are leaving courses and programs without certain problem solving and collaborative skills that employers are looking for. So we sometimes miss on integrating soft skills into our online courses and programs. By involving and embedding interactions and interactive elements into our programs and courses, along with opportunities to collaborate with peers, we give the students an opportunity or a platform to go ahead and explore some of that soft skill generation that employers are looking for. So I want to take a moment and just allow you to reflect on, what are you currently doing in your courses that is encouraging interaction or collaboration. And it wouldn't be too off the mark to maybe assume that maybe you don't have a lot of interactive components in there just yet. Well, that's okay. We've not offered these types of workshops in the past, so you may not have known about the tools that are available to you. So what we're going to do now is just reflect also on why we should put in these interactive components. Now, I mentioned the soft skills, and I mentioned that skill deficit or skill gap that employers have identified. But another reason is, over a quarter of our students, and this is again it's just at ETSU, but over a quarter of students enroll in at least one online course. I actually rechecked these stats. I had this presentation created about a year or so ago. The stat now is 31% of courses. So over the course of a year, those statistics have, that number has increased from 28% of courses enrolling in at least one online course during their tenure as an undergrad, to now 31% of courses, or 31% of students enroll in at least one online course during their tenure. Now, If we are looking to students who are enrolled in exclusively online programs, this is hugely important for those program administrators and course instructors, developers, and facilitators, because we are then charged with creating the same or a comparable experience to our face-to-face classes. Now, let me pause for a second, because I don't want to over-romanticize face-to-face courses. Sometimes you have face-to-face courses which are also not collaborative or interactive in essence. So I want to make sure to articulate that not every class has these interactions. Not every class has the capacity to have these interactions, and that's okay. But as a course developer, and as we are continuing to approach the growing and increasing trend in enrollments in online education, whether it be one class or an entire program, we have been charged then with creating opportunities for our students. Those opportunities could involve interactive opportunities, collaborative opportunities, or even culturally responsive opportunities. And we are always going to be editing and updating and refining our processes and our courses to keep up with the needs and demands of our online students. Online courses are unique in that they situate themselves in a position of flexibility with obligation. And so what I mean by that is online courses for students can be created in a way that the content's approachable, the instructor is more approachable, and it facilitates this self-directed learning or self-guided learning. Students are charged with navigating through the content on their own. So they have those self-directive skills, some motivation and persistence factors also impact that navigation. And students have the ability to go back and forth, repeat content, re-review content, because all of that content is readily available to them. But just simply having content available is kind of no longer enough anymore. How can we encourage students to really integrate or really interact with the content that we've given them? It's not enough anymore to simply post up either some chapter readings or a visual aid presentation or something like that, or a journal article, and then expect students to have this really awe-inspiring aha moment with your course. The interactions have to be a little bit more thought out now. And so that's where we talk about what we can do to help diversify the content inside of our online courses. How can we make our courses fun again, or cool again, or make it to where when a student ends a course or completes a course, they go and tell their friends, hey, that course was really awesome. I learned a lot in that course. That instructor was really helpful. We love hearing instances and testimonials like that. I loved that online course because I felt like I learned a lot. I loved the online professor because he or she helped me and I felt like she or he actually cared about my success. So we need to make sure that our students are leaving our online courses with those impressions, with that impression like, wow, I learned something, and not so much, wow, that was a lot of stuff I had to do in my class. So we're moving away from making your students do stuff to interacting with them in a way that makes them forget that they're doing stuff. And so that can be really hard to do. Okay. So a couple of things about research. I've been pretty heavily involved in researching this kind of phenomenon, like online learning, interaction, accessibility, flexibility. All of that stuff has really made an impression on me as I approach instructional design and course reviews. And I want to make sure that I share some of that information with you. So I have posted on your screen some statistics that I have gathered from, not statistics, but some research that I've gathered on online learning, interactions, and the marriage of those two things together. First, interactivity accommodates diverse learning styles. So when we think about how our students are learning, some students learn by doing, some students learn by reading and watching a demonstration, some students learn best by teaching other students. Some students learn by just kind of repetition, like going over it and over it again. Well, in the face-to-face classroom, we are not afforded those kinds of repetitive luxuries, unless, of course, we stand up and repeat for our students over and over again the content. Well, in our online classes, our students do have the opportunity to go back and review that information as much as they want. And those interactions that we put into our courses, and by interaction, I mean anytime the students are actively working with content. So that could be some sort of quiz, a flip card, a game, anytime they're clicking within the course. That's my interactivity. But this interactivity accommodates diverse learning styles and resets attention. Now that attention is going to play hugely in our online student world, okay? So our online students, when they come into a course, we've got them for about 8 to 10 minutes average, okay? Maybe, I guess with the deviation, I'd say 8 to 12 minutes, 10 minutes average. So what does that mean if we only have them for 8 to 10 minutes? Well, that means that my student logs into the course. They need to quickly be able to find what they're supposed to be doing, and then they'll do that for about 8 to 10 minutes. So they'll watch something or read something for about 8 to 10 minutes until they're like, okay, I need to do something else. They're looking around, looking at their watch, looking at their cell phone, something like that. I know this is true. I'm an online student myself, and when I first read over these statistics before I enrolled in the online program that I'm in, I thought, well, that seemed a little bit short. But it's not. I assure you it is not. When I approach the content as a student, I need to know a couple of things right off the bat. What do I got to do? How long is it going to take? And when's it due? That's all I care about. I don't care about any sort of fancy stuff or anything like that. But what I've learned is when I'm quickly glossing over those things, touching course content here or there, just briefly going over it, that's really not activating any sort of long-term memory or learning, because I'm finding that I have to go back and redo those 8 to 10 minutes of interaction. So interactivity has also been proven to activate long-term memory and improve attention spans for our students. So as an online student, I approach the content, I'm going through there, I see that I have a really long video. Maybe my instructor has posted a 38-minute lecture video, and I think to myself, man, I don't know how I'm going to do that, or I don't know how I'm going to pay attention for that long. I start watching it, and the instructor is calling out to me. We're having a conversation at this point, between kind of an asynchronous conversation at this point. The instructor is communicating with purpose to an online audience, but they're also calling me to do things. I need to, in this particular statistics course, I'm going to work out this problem as the instructor is working it out, or I need to answer this series of questions before I can view the solution to the problem. All of those things activate, encourage long-term memory, and reset attention. That is so huge. Another thing that's huge that we need to think about is replacing those kind of standardized, molded textbook scenarios and replacing them with real-world scenarios. Why does this matter? Okay, I'm currently taking a statistics course, and I find myself asking that a lot. Why is this, like, why should I care about this? Other than, me wanting to continue as a scholar in academia and, continue down publications and all that stuff. I know I have to do statistics for that, because if my article doesn't have stats, it's not going to be published. But like, what about in my real job? How am I going to use statistics in my real job? Well, if my instructor adjusts the viewpoint of the content to maybe look at a way that real-world scenarios are applying statistical calculations, then I can say, oh, this is something that I can connect this particular mathematical thing with helping me do X, Y, and Z in my work. That is hugely impactful. And these real-world scenarios get the student thinking, oh, this is definitely valuable for me. Once the student sees value in your content, they are way more likely to approach you with questions, be integrated and interactive in that content. They'll be more active in your course. You can be able to trace this kind of activity once you implement real-world scenarios that involve some interactivity. Okay, but that always brings me to my next point of reflection. I have a quotation posted on the screen. I just want to read it out loud, even though I know we can all read. High quality means nothing unless we can succeed in engaging and motivating our audience to learn. So what that means is we work with fabulous subject matter experts. We are so lucky to have some of the best brains in each field. We have some amazing instructors who do amazing things. They're off participating in Ivy League school collaborations. They are invested in publications and literature. They're moving forward in community initiatives. They are truly, truly great. Sometimes that doesn't translate into the online classroom. And so what we have to do is we have to work together, the subject matter expert and the instructional design team, to really facilitate an engaging and motivating experience, because content alone isn't that engaging. Think about when you're reading a textbook chapter, or you're reading a particular set of statistics or particular journal article or something like that, or a literature review. I would wager to say that it's probably rare that you would be like, wow, this is really engaging and motivating, just because sometimes it's a little dry and it's a little bit hard to connect with. And so we have an opportunity in the online classroom to create opportunities. Now, whether the students pursue those opportunities or not, that's neither here nor there. It's a different webinar. But we have the opportunity to create engaging and motivating opportunities for our students to really dig into the content. And so that's what this is. That's what pretty much this is all about. I mentioned students seeing value in content. Students are more likely to be engaged with and interact with your content if they can derive the value of that content. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how is this going to benefit me at all? Okay, so the diagram that I have on your screen is just, I actually retrieved this from a marketing proposal, but online classes are very similar to marketing strategies. Our students are consumers of our content. They need to know what they're buying, how to buy it, and why they should buy it. Because the why of everything is what drives. You can look to motivational speakers, you can look to goal strategists and goal casting webinars and self-help books and all of these things. Every single principle that they teach on is rooted in why. Why am I doing something? Why is this important to me? Why is this relevant to me? These interactive components help students answer that why. Oh, I need to review this content because when I go to, if I'm thinking about a nursing example, I need to review this content because at some point I'm going to be asked to review or read an EKG slip. I think that's the right terminology. If it's not, just go with me. In my going back to my statistics class, I need to know how to do these computations because this could really help me identify areas of need for our online faculty developers. Always coming back to and drawing back to the why. Those interactions help students make those connections. Okay, so that all sounds, wasn't that really great? Now, aren't you really inspired and invigorated and all of these things? But how do we do that? How do we create these things? I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a web designer, I'm not a video person, but I know that I want to do these things, very motivated to do these things. But of course, motivation isn't enough to get me there. I need to know how to do them, where I can do them, and when I can start. Those are most of the time what I'm asking myself. H5P is a website. In its purest and simplest form, it's a website. On that website, it allows you to first create a free account and then gain access to the build templates, essentially, of over 30 interactive content types. So inside of H5P, and we'll look at some of them, you can create fill in the blank activities. Okay, you can create interactive quizzes that live in videos. So you can get a video from YouTube, bring it in, and place questions within it. You can create accordions that chunk information into visually approachable pieces. Let's say that you have a big, long assignment. It's got several steps or several different stages, and students seem to be overwhelmed every semester. Every semester you have students coming to you and saying, I have no idea what's going on. They're overwhelmed. They're probably overly stimulated in terms of visual capacity. How can we make that material more approachable? How can we make it more fun? How can we show them, you know, or allow them opportunities to practice in a safe environment before we are putting them in front of our assessment piece? H5P answers all of those things. So let's talk about how to get to H5P. Well, first of all, you would just simply go to h5p.org. Okay, h5p.org is your opportunity to first create an account. I can log out here and I'll show you what that looks like. Create a free account, and then within that free account, you then have access to interactive content editing. Now, even on the website here, they have a little match game. Now, this may not be appropriate for the level that you teach, but it is something fun. You can look at examples, and we'll go through some of these examples here. They have fabulous documentation. Couple of things. I'm definitely not an H5P expert, and I can't always resolve your H5P issues. So everything that I show you here, take it with a grain of salt, that we're both in this together and we're all still learning. There's also a forum that you can participate in. It's very active all the time. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm going to log in with the account that I have. Feel free to create an account on your own. All right, so in H5P, we are able to see everything that we have created. Now, this can be any type, exclusive of type. I have created several different things since using H5P, about 2 years now. Anything that we create in H5P can be embedded into D2L. So before we go into how to click on and the different aspects of an H5P interaction, let's look at what they would look like. Okay, so I'm going to hop into a class now and show you the different types of interactions that you could consider putting into your course. Okay, so the first example is a simple presentation. So presentations are H5P's answer to or alternative to PowerPoint presentations. They act the same in that they're slide-based. So in an H5P presentation, you have the ability to create multiple slides, but more than that, you have the ability to create interactions. So if you see on my screen, this is simply something, a presentation that's embedded into D2L. This is very similar to a PowerPoint, but different in that on my next slide, so I'm just going to progress to the next slide here. On my next slide, I immediately have an interaction. So I've already prompted my students to answer to one of the questions. Now, the content of the question may have originated or resided in the previous slide. So students can go back, again, that self-directed learning. They can go back and choose an option. Now, this is going to be a series of questions. So I can answer, and H5P is giving me instantaneous feedback. So as soon as I answer, H5P is letting me know yes, no, I answered it correctly or whatever else. Okay, I'm going to answer again, And then based on my scores, I'm able to either see the answers or I can try that series of interactions again. So that is really nice. Again, all of these things that are displaying help me to gauge whether or not I've truly learned that content, or at least know it enough for immediate recall. Now, students do not have to complete interactions. Your job as the facilitator or course developer is to create opportunities for them. Whether they do them or not, that's up to them, and that goes into a whole series of other things. So we can also engage in some fill-in-the-blank opportunities. If I skip ahead, we can look at just some other plain slides. There's interactivity to jump to a particular other slide, so there's some navigation components that H5P allows for. But just know that, and there's some videos here, just know that regardless of your interactions that you choose to implement into your courses, none of these interactions should be in place of formal assessment, okay? These are all practice opportunities for your students. H5P should never and will never replace your formal assessment of your students, your assignments. While the free version of H5P does not allow for any sort of tracking, so we don't know if a student begins something, or we don't know if a student finishes something, if they have a problem, if something works or they don't. There's no tracking mechanism in the free version of H5P. We are currently piloting the premium version of H5P and seeing how it integrates within D2L. Now, that integration does involve some heavier tracking and the ability to connect these interactions to the gradebook. But even still, even within that ability, I would strongly encourage you to never replace your formal assessments. So your D2L quizzes and exams, your Dropbox assignments, your discussion boards. I would never encourage any of you to replace your D2L assessments with H5P interactions. It would open up an avenue of, it would just not be good. Okay, so this is what a presentation looks like. Couple things about H5P. You're not able, that I know of, to take the PowerPoint that you have and then put it into H5P. Like, there's no way to convert that file type to an H5P thing. You would have to recreate your presentation. You are able to record voice on an H5P presentation inside of the editor, and I can show you that. But again, we always caution against narrated PowerPoints. One, for accessibility reasons. There's not a really great way to caption a narrated PowerPoint. So if you're wanting that kind of narrated lecture experience, we always recommend that you convert that to a video. That way the student doesn't have to download the PDF or the PowerPoint presentation and then open it up and then have to figure out where the sound embeds are. And it could be kind of nightmarish for a student. And oftentimes, if the student is having to do anything extra, they're just not going to do it. And so all of that time you spent narrating the slides, there's a chance that no one is listening to them. Now, if you convert those things to a video and all the student has to do is come in here and click play and listen, much more, the likelihood of them doing that is greater. So we're just talking about eliminating barriers to content. So this is an H5P presentation. Another H5P example that I want to show you is the Hotspot. This is really awesome. This is an example that we built out in the online training. I'll show you a better example in H5P, but this is your ability to take an image that you've created or an image that you have found online. This could be like an anatomy image, like a certain organ or body part or something like that. And on top of that image, you would then interlay interactive elements. So interactive elements in terms of the student being able to click on something and see some expanded information. Now, inside of this bubble that just popped up, I'm able to place text, video, or another image. I'm not able to place an interaction, so like a quiz or something like that, but I am able to place text, video, or an image, or all three inside of the call out there. The call out can be any length, so it can be as short or as long as you want, and there's no limit to how many hotspots you have. So that is another really great option. I think that would also be great for any sort of mapping. If you have a mapping class, there is one instructor on campus who takes a screenshot of her D2L course and then adds hotspots, and that element serves as her navigation piece. So maybe she would have a hotspot over evaluation, and if you clicked on evaluation, it would show you an image of this drop-down menu, and it would say evaluation is going to be your location to take all of your exams, submit your Dropbox assignments, and interact in the discussion board. So you could use that. It could scale to fit your needs. The accordion example, I mentioned this briefly a little bit earlier. This is your example to chunk information. So if you have a lot of information, students need to have that information visually segmented so that they know first the hierarchy, the order of importance. They know the relationship of the content to the whole. So based on that hierarchy, how does this content relate? They know the sequence, what comes first, second, third, or they could jump right to a particular section. So this example that I have displayed on your screen is also available in the online instructor training, but this is walking through how to create and scaffold a group assignment or a group presentation project in an online class. That's always a nebulous term, is a group presentation in an online class. Like what does that even mean? Or what does it look like? Or what does it feel like? The chunking or the accordion comes in that when a student clicks on one of these headings, only the information that connects to that heading is displayed. So when the student clicks again, that information is collapsed. So instead of all of this information being kind of like a text dump on your students, they are interacting in that they are picking and choosing which items to expand or collapse. Now, what's not displayed inside of this example is the student's instructions on how to interact with this kind of component. It would be beneficial to include some contextual information that walks them through how to interact with and how to click on each of these components. I'm not saying it's not simple enough for them to figure it out. All they have to do is single click on something. But in terms of scaffolding and support, it's always a good idea to allow them to have some information that guides them through that. You want the hard part of your course to be application of knowledge, not figuring out navigation. Okay. Next example I want to show you is probably the most popular in terms of H5P usage across higher ed, like colleges and universities. This is the interactive video. So inside of H5P, this is the video that they've created. So of course it's really nice. I'm sure they had like some sort of content editor, video editor, something like that. They're taking a video, but within that video, and you can see here, each of these little bubbles represents an interaction. So I'm able to start the video. I'll just play it for just a second. I'll turn that down because sound isn't relevant. I can look at an ingredients list. When I click on that ingredients list, notice that the video doesn't stop unless I'm clicking on it, so I'll move that back. So the recipe here, there's an ingredients list that pauses the video. I'm able to see all the ingredients of that video or of that recipe. It comes up and automatically I'm able to take a multiple choice quiz. Notice that the video also does not stop for this, so I can simply ignore it completely. I'm able to answer some simple recall questions and then continue on with the video. So I'm still watching the video, looking at the process of order, and then again, an immediate recall information or immediate recall interaction. So I can highlight things in a list, check them, and then continue on out through my video. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. There's a drag and drop quiz here too. So I'm able to drag and drop different things. Of course, these are very simplistic examples, but you can apply this to pretty much any discipline. And then at the very end of the video, I have a summary. And this summary goes through and tells students how I performed on each of the interactions that were available inside of this particular video. So that's hugely helpful for me as a student, so I can go back and see where I struggled, or if I need to possibly revisit a piece of content. So interactions like these can be placed on any video, a video that you upload, or a video, and this is the option that we would prefer, a video that you either place on YouTube yourself or that you have taken from YouTube. It does not have to be your video. So if there's a video that you think is really great, but you want to add some, or you want to extend the content to your students, maybe just talk a little bit, maybe the video said something and you either agreed or disagreed but wanted to kind of expand on something, you could pause the video and then add either some text or a quiz or something else to extend the information that's shared. So this is pretty much what some of the ways that H5P can be integrated into D2L. I'll show you step by step how to do each of those. But I just wanted to show you some examples of what we're getting ready to do and what that looks like. Okay. Now, a couple of things to consider before creating new content. All of the, I'm back in H5P, all content creation begins with this create new content button. Okay, it's not very obvious in the dashboard view, but when I click that create new content, I'm first prompted with what I want to create. Now here is my list of H5P options. Again, there's almost 30 of them. We can't go through all 30. It would be hugely long. But some of the things I want to call out that are really, really cool. We looked at interactive video. That's a huge use for this. That's probably, I would say, the majority of the use is this ability to place interactive elements on top of videos. We looked at course presentation and Accordion. There's also the ability to generate charts and graphs. So this is really helpful if you have information. Sometimes the table view of information is not as impactful or helpful to students as like a chart or diagram or something more visually appealing. So H5P allows you to take information and then create a chart with it. That's huge. You can also do this in Excel, but again, with Excel, it's not easily embedded into D2L. You can create dialogue cards. Dialogue cards are H5P's flashcards. These are really cool, and I'll show you some of the ways that we've incorporated dialogue cards in to other presentations. You can also, we looked at find the hotspot. One of the things that I do want to call out is a couple of misconceptions. So you have a sequence of various types of questions. So this would be a quiz that contains multiple question types. And then a single choice set is a question or series of questions that are multiple choice. They have one correct answer. So you have two different options there. Now, in terms of the question types, we have multiple choice, multi-select, fill in the blank, and true false. So those are the types that we have. One of the other one of the other things that we have is the ability to upload or create an audio recording. So this is hugely beneficial for, I'm thinking of specifically my language instructors. Let's say you're teaching a foreign language online you need the student to send you something, you can embed an audio recorder into your class that allows you to record audio to either send or share with someone else. That's hugely beneficial for our students taking those foreign language classes online. One of the best ways of teaching language is through immersion. So you must have them immersed in that language. How does that language sound? How do they navigate it or negotiate it throughout the day? All that good stuff. So audio recorder creates an opportunity for students to record in the learning environment, which is huge. The other another great and popular use is image slider. This allows you to take two images that are the same, and then using a slider show a cause and effect. So this could be like maybe a set of healthy lungs and then a set of damaged lungs due to either smoking or something else. The student could slide back and forth and look at the cause and effect relationship of a particular variable. So that's really nice. The last two things I want to call out are, these are not items that we're going to be touching on in this webinar, but I do want to call them out because I think that the opportunity for their use is huge. The first is the virtual 360 tour. I'm thinking specifically for my early education and early childhood specialty instructors in terms of classroom setup. Virtual 360 allows you to create your own 360 virtual environment, complete with interactions. So you could have a early childhood classroom, so you could have like a pre-K classroom or a first grade classroom, and you can literally take students on a tour of that classroom, and then in each particular area create some interactions or some call outs that share some information. So for example, maybe there's a reading corner, and inside of this reading corner you've set it up so that your students are going to be interacting with books. They can either listen to a book, read a book to others, something like that. In the math section, you could have activities that foster those math skills, like adding, subtracting, the balance, weights, all those different things. But you are in charge of creating a virtual environment, and that is huge. That has not been able to be done free in, I can't even understand. Branching scenarios. This is one of the newest H5P content types, and it is the one that I'm most excited about. Branching scenarios is your opportunity to create self-paced learning using scenarios. It's amazing. If you have some free time, I would encourage you to go back and watch the branching scenario example that H5P has given us. It is truly amazing. This is your opportunity to create an entire simulation for your students. Spoiler alert. Branching scenarios take an exorbitant amount of time, and you must account for every single answer option available and then explore that answer. So for example, and they use this example in as kind of like a show and tell, but their branching example is a social worker who is on a home visit. And in that scenario, you, the student, are walking through that home visit, and at each step of the way, the video or scenario will pause, and you must make your decision. Where will you sit? Do you sit on the couch? Do you remain standing? Do you sit on the bar stool? And based on your answer, the scenario then changes or branches out to accommodate that response. So maybe you chose, I'm going to sit on the couch to talk to my client. Well, then you have to create that scenario. What happens if you sit on the couch and not stand by the door? So every single interaction has to be thought out. You're basically creating a movie. Your students are just directing their way through that. It is hugely, hugely beneficial. I can think of so many scenarios where this would be hugely beneficial. I'm thinking specifically patient encounters. So my medical information, my nursing folks, my physical therapy instructors. How do you interact with a patient? How do you interact with a patient who doesn't speak English? How do you interact with a patient who is aggressive? How do you interact with a patient who is battling some sort of mental illness. Branching scenarios allow you to create that real life situation in a safe environment where the student can explore how she or he would react in that same scenario. So instead of their first interaction being, my students need to know how to handle this particular sensitive topic, they've already been exposed to how they would handle it or how it would feel. So branching scenarios are huge. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an interactive video. So in this search for content types, I'm going to simply create or click on interactive video. It's going to load up here, and I need a title. So this is going to be webinar interactive video. Now it asks me to upload or link to a video. So I'm going to click here, and I can upload a video, which I wouldn't recommend, or I would paste in the URL for the YouTube video, which I do recommend. So I'm going to hop over here and go to YouTube and go to my ETSU faculty D2L site and just pick a video. So let's see. I'll do a new to D2L, and I want to do customizing start and end dates. Okay, this one looks good. So all I'm going to do is literally just copy that URL. So I've copied the URL. I'm going to jump back into H5P, paste that URL in here. Okay, click insert. So what H5P is doing is taking my YouTube video. It's not moving it away from YouTube. It's still living on YouTube, so there's no playability issues in anything like that. And now I get to add my interactions. So I'm going to go to step 2 here. So there's 3 steps. In step 2, I get to choose where my interactions are happening. I can use the playhead to determine a particular point in time in the video. And let's say I'm going to come here. Yeah. Okay, so there I was directing them to click course offering information so that you can change your start and end dates for a course. So I would like to add an interaction here. So I'm going to scroll up here to the top of my page, and here are the interactions that I can add. I can simply just put up some text. Maybe I just need some text to be called out. I can put up a link to something. Maybe I want to send them some information that would be helpful. Maybe I want to add another picture. Or maybe I want to actually ask them to do something. So here I can create a single choice set. I can create a multiple choice set. I can create true false questions, fill in the blanks, drag and drops, mark the words, all of these things. Okay, I'm going to choose multiple choice. And all that I'm going to do now is just create my question. So here's one of the biggest pieces of this. For these interactions, and you get to answer this for yourself, you can choose either. Do you want the video to pause? Do you want everything to stop and then your question is posed? Or do you want the students to be able to just play the video? They can click on the interaction if they want. Totally up to you. If you do not want your video to pause, simply determine the amount of time in seconds. This is seconds here, 1 minute 29 seconds to 1 minute 39 seconds. Determine the amount of seconds that you want this call out, this little tag that they click on, to display. Otherwise, if you want to pause the video, you would change it to the same time in both the start and end. Okay, so that can be a little bit confusing. I always recommend pausing the video because that's just my own personal preference. Then I also want the video I want the call out to be displayed as a button. See how, if you remember in the interactive example, there was a little purple tag, and I clicked on the tag and the question popped up. But poster means that my question is going to take over that presentation. I want my students to have to stop the video, and I want the question to fill the screen. So I'm going to choose poster here. Okay. And then I have my question. So I click on question, and it's going to open up this text box, and I can format the text using these couple of formatting options, but here, following settings. Okay, so I just talked about what course offering information hosted, and now I'm going to add like a quick recall interaction. Okay, so my options are my A, B, C, D. Okay, I'm just going to type out some here. Okay, I'm just going to, again, keep on going down here. I can add some options. And okay, so at the top of the page, I'm going to identify the correct answer by simply checking correct. Okay, now I'll scroll back down and I can give some feedback here. Maybe I want students to, if they got the question wrong, I'll say 99, please try again. And the 100, this is okay, just give them some simple feedback here. Again, this is not something that you have to configure if you don't want to. After I've created my multiple choice question, I click done. Now, here's my billboard. Now, I said I wanted it to span the whole width of the screen, and so I get to determine what that looks like. So at this point, I've essentially created my interaction. I didn't have to do anything fancy or anything like that. I can check to see what it looks like. So let's see here. I put it at 129, so let's see what it says. Oh, so it automatically pops or pauses my video, the billboard displays, and then my student chooses what the answer is before going back into the thing. Now, if I needed to edit it, all I do to edit is double click on that interaction. So I have it up here on my screen. I've used my playhead to make it display, and then I double click on the interaction to go back to the editing options. I'm able to add, again, as many interactions as I want, and I'm able to choose from any of the options that H5P gives me. Now, at the end of my video, that summary task, I'm able to create statements if I want. I'm able to do pretty much anything that I like here. I typically don't do anything, but you can if you want. So at this point, my video is ready to be embedded. So it's ready to put back in D2L. I've loaded my video. I created my interaction at 1 minute and 29 seconds. I also verified that I'm not a robot. And at this point, I click save. So when I save, that build is now saved into my H5P account. I see that I have my interaction here. It's indicated by that little bubble. And then to get this thing in D2L, I would come down here to embed. I'm circling it with my cursor. I click embed and copy that code here. Okay. So when I go back to H5 or my D2L course, I'm going to go back to my empty course here. I can put this thing in pretty much anywhere that I want. I'm able to place it in the news tool if I want. Most of all, we see this in content, and you can do it one of two ways. The first way is if I create a file, I'm just going to title it interactive video, and then in my file, I choose insert stuff. insert stuff allows me to enter some embed code. I'm just going to paste in that code that I copied. Remember that I just simply copied it here. Pasting in that embed code, click next. You might have to click allow here. And then when I insert it, my H5P video with my interaction is here. I click publish. And at this point, my student is able to watch my video in D2L when they get close to my interaction. Let it play here. They're able to choose an answer and then get that feedback. See, that feedback that I left was that they can change the date of the course, and then I can continue on watching the video. So in that, I'm able, because I chose that create a file, I'm also able to give the students some contextual information. So I'm able to add some information above or below the video if I wanted. So I can add some text here at the top. I can let students know what's getting ready to happen, so that when they come in here, they read this text and they say, oh, okay, I got to do something here. So they'll watch the video and then play with the interaction. Again, there's no tracking on this. So this is simply for check of recall, immediate application of practice, those types of scenarios. So that's interactive video. Let me show you the second way to add it to your course. Using video or audio, you can also just simply embed. Let's see, video or audio option. Okay, so I just embedded that. So the difference here is, so I showed you two times. The first time, the interactive video embedded in an HTML file gives me the ability to add text before or after. It also gives me the ability to format this page however I want. We have some HTML templates. You can get as fancy or as simple as you want. The second option just shows my student the video. It doesn't allow for me to add text on or after the video or before or after the video or anything like that. It just allows me to, it just allows the student to interact. Now, it's always my personal preference that we embed these videos within the HTML template, just because the playability is better. Notice how that there's still some playability issues here. It's just taking a while for everything to load up appropriately. So just be aware of that. This is another good point to mention that all of these interactions are at the mercy of this particular website working. So if something is not working in your course in terms of your H5P interactions, that would be an H5P issue. So our hands are a little bit tied in terms of being able to troubleshoot or fix that. Also worth mentioning that each H5P account is an individual account, so I don't have access to anything that you make or any of the settings that you use to make it. So sometimes troubleshooting can get a little bit tricky. Okay, let's go ahead and add a different picture here. All right, so, or not picture. So I'm gonna go again and I am going to choose a different content type. This time I'm going to choose, let's see here. I'm gonna choose fill in the blank. Okay, so I'm gonna choose webinar, fill in the blank example. Okay. This is a guide. This is just some information. You can choose to change your update if you want. So here's what's so cool about this. The fill in the blank only requires you to type a sentence. So fill in the blanks are like, they remind me of like Mad Libs. So you would type in your sentence or group of sentences, and then for the words that you need the students to fill in, place those in asterisks. And that's literally it. So for example, let's see here. Let's see, H5P helps me to build interactive content. But maybe I want to select, I would probably also accept the word create as well. So for adding options, I would just simply add a / and add any sort of additional answer options that I would accept. So now the sentence would say, I'm just going to go ahead and save this so you can see it. H5P helps me to, and I could choose build and check that, and it says yes. Or I could, let me choose create, and it would also answer, or it would display as correct. Now, if one of my students did not choose those words, so maybe they chose make, it would say that is wrong. Now, reiterate, there's no tracking in this. You can't see what the student has typed in or anything like that. So in these types of scenarios, what I would do is inside of this feedback, you could help students understand what you meant. Maybe if you wanted that, wanted to give them the answer options, you could place that in the feedback. So for example, I could add a range here for 99, and inside of my 99, I'm just going to put this a little bit of feedback for the students so that they can see where I was going with that. So for example, if I chose make again and checked it, I would say H5P is a great tool for creating or building interactive content. So my students could come back here and say, oh, I bet she wanted create. She did want create. So they could go back and forth. Now, inside, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to click in the embed button, copy that embed code. Now for fill in the blank, you kind of have to be inside of that the creative file, the HTML file. So this is going to be my fill in the blank example. Okay, and you can have something through in your course readings. You explored blah 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 blah. You could like set up a scenario, and then on that next line you would, using that insert stuff button, using that embed code, paste in that embed code, and it would be right there. So the student could easily say, oh, help me to build. Okay, but I don't want you to feel obligated to just the HTML content. I want you to know that each of these interactions can be anywhere the HTML editor is found. So that can be in the description of something. You could add one of these interactions in the description of that thing. Now for here, I would probably want to size it to be something smaller, maybe 500. Okay, maybe something a little bit shorter. See there, it's a little bit smaller. So my students could interact right there inside of my module description. You could add interactions inside of a news item. I'll give it a news item, and again, you've got access to that insert stuff button, and I could paste in, I'm going to make it smaller too. So I'm able to put my interaction anywhere I see that HTML editor box. Where can you put that? News items, module descriptions, content topics, so HTML topics, discussion boards, quizzes, Dropbox assignments, grading feedback, literally just about anywhere. It's hugely expansive. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a different type. Go ahead and chat if you would like to see a particular type. I'll try to show you guys the content that you would like to see, or you can unmute and just simply call out the content type. All right, so I'm going to go try out, this time I'm going to do one of those presentations. So this is one of those PowerPoint-ish type alternatives. Okay. So here I need my presentation example. Now, for the webinar, here the course presentation requires a little bit more building. So I'm presented with a gray box, and from that gray box I can add pretty much anything. I can add a new slide. I can change the background of my slide. I can use an image. I can use a color. I'm just going to do a color for right now. And I'll add some text that says, hey, Chelsea's amazing presentation. And I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, and I'd like for it to be white. Let's see here. Just playing with some of the text options here, and then I can just use those resizing handles to put that text box wherever I want it. Okay, so I have my title slide here. Now I'm going to add a new slide, and this is going to be my content. So I'll come back here to my slide background. I'll change it to maybe this green color is fine. And I'll add some text. Now, your example presentation had a really nice image and then a box around it. So let's go find an image. So I'm going to go to Pexels. Pexels is a site that you can get free images from. Let's see here. We'll just choose one. Yeah, this one's fine. So I like this image. I'm just going to download it. It downloads. It's a really high quality, high res image. I'm going to go back, and instead of a color, I'm going to choose an image. I'll add that image. Let's see here. It's a download. Okay. I'll upload that image that we just grabbed off of the internet. Okay. So see how professional that looks already? So I'm going to choose a text box, and I'm going to do some placeholder text just to give you an idea of what that would look like. Okay, so placeholder text, we typically set up this, there's some generic placeholder that's always used as the default. In this, I'm going to move it up to that 125. I'm going to choose the background of opacity of about 25. The reason that I do that is I want the text to be set apart from the image. Okay, it's not quite dark enough for me. So I'm going to double click on it again. I'll add 55, and I'm going to move that back down to 100%. Select my text, change it. So now see how I have a box that kind of distinguishes my text from the image. So that's how they were able to get that blackberry strawberry smoothie thing to look the way that they did. They just used an image as the background, and then for your text box, they used some opacity settings to create that shadow looking box here. Now also in this, we're able to add those same interactions. So if we look at the top of our presentation, we can add videos. So that was their ability to create a way to embed a YouTube video, because if you've worked with PowerPoint at all, you know that adding a video, you've got a 50-50 shot at it actually working when you put the presentation on, and I don't like those odds. You can add some audio. Again, I would use caution when doing that. But these interactions, like the multiple choice questions, okay, well, I'm just gonna, just a quick recall, the name of the image repository, it was Pexels. And I'll just add 2 options here for the sake of time. So here, I am just going to add, just move it up there. I can change the, pretty much anything that I want on here. If I chose 100, that would make that question all white. So just know that. Now I have 2 different things that I can use. So I've got a couple of slides here, and now I can save my presentation. And if I go to look at it, it says Pexels. All right, I got that correct. Now there's no fancy transition, so that's something that H5P has not offered, is animating your presentation. So with PowerPoint, you can like have text fly in or come up from the bottom or dissolve or fade in and out. There's not really that kind of capacity here, but just know that you can create some standard things. If you don't care about the animations and the visual effects, this is a great alternative. So I'm going to copy my embed code again, hop back over to my site, and just like with any of the other things, I'm going to click Create in File, Webinar Interaction Presentation, and using Insert Stuff, enter my embed code, and click Publish. Okay. So now my presentation shows, and my students can interact with it within D2L. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to download anything. I do get this question a lot. Can you print it? Not really, no. So if printing is important to you, this may not be a good option for you, but I just want to know, I just want you to know that the advantage here is students could interact with the presentation in D2L without having to download it or anything else. If you feel passionate about them having something to download, you can always give them a lecture guide or some other, like an outline of the lecture or something like that, so that they have the ability to kind of follow along on a piece of printed material. Okay. We have time to show one more presentation type. I'm going to go back, and inside of my content, I'm going to choose let's see here. Timeline. The timeline is it's your opportunity to create a series of events. So this is applicable for those history or seminar courses where you have a lot of information to transmit to students. So one of my coworkers, he teaches a history of digital media course, and he uses a timeline as one of his content topics, because that would be applicable and relatable to the content. You're showing how a subject has changed over time. So you're able to, oh, let's see here, hold on, I got a chat and I didn't know it. What was the site again? Oh, H5P. Oh, Pexels. Pexels. There's also another one called Unsplash. And there's all kinds. If you just Google search image repositories, that will give you some good things. For the H5P website, that's just simply h5p.org. Okay. All right. Do you want me to show you timeline? Are you interested in timeline, or would you rather have something else? Because I'm happy to show you anything. I just want it to be as helpful to you guys as possible. Or I could go on with timeline, either one. All right. Let's see here. I want to say toddler development stages. Okay. I'm going to put in just literally each of these things are, okay, so here we go. Start date, end date, headline, all that good stuff. Okay, so for the start date, I'm going to put, we'll do years. We'll say 2016, and then end date, let's say 2020. It's like 3-year period. Early stage toddler, and then your child will experience XYZ. Actually, let's do this. 2017, infant stage. Then I'm going to add an item and go from 2017 to 2018. This is going to 2018. And this is going to be early toddler, crawler, walker stage. Okay, and some other things here. Then I'm going to add an additional item that is 2018 to 2020, full movement. Okay, I have a 3-year-old, obviously, so, and I'm going to just save that. So I'll save that and see if I like how it looks. So I see here, this is the timeline that it gives me. I'm starting some, here's kind of my title slide. If I move on, I'm able to see the infant stage. So in the infant stage, I can, add text, images. I can be as fancy as I want. I can progress to the next stage, which, maybe he's learning how to crawl or walk or do whatever. For next stage, all bets are off. So I like how this looks. So I'm going to click my embed code, copy it, literally the same thing over and over again. It gets kind of redundant after a while. I'm able to do create a file, timeline example, and using my insert stuff button, plug that in. So now my students have the ability to interact with this piece of content inside of D2L. I like H5P because students don't have to go anywhere else. I'm always recommending that you eliminate any sort of navigational barriers that you can so that your students can truly focus on the content. And so what I mean by that is when you're going to set up your course, you want this consistent module structure, but you don't want your course to be a scavenger hunt unless you've gamified it, and that's the whole game. But the navigation barriers are sometimes make or break for students. Those navigation issues, whether you're going out to a particular website or asking that they do this, that, or the other somewhere else, every single opportunity for fallout comes when they have to go elsewhere. So if you have set up and I'll go back to the content tool, if you've set up your content modules in a way that all they have to do is progress to the next item. And so what I mean by that is you've thought about your content And all the student has to do essentially is use these two navigational arrows to go forward and backward through your content. Then that you've taken the guesswork out of how they negotiate your course. Instead of them having to figure out where to go, what to click on, anything like that, you've built it in a way where they don't have to worry about that. You've taken care of it. So I'm always a huge proponent of anytime you can embed content, then do that, because the less your students have to click around, I think the more enriched experience that they'll have. Some people like to say that, well, I want it in multiple places so they don't have to look around. Well, okay, I can see that to the extent, but that really charges you as the instructor with updating multiple things. And I've really, I think that whatever is easiest for the instructor to maintain has the greatest chance for success. So I'm always a huge fan of anytime you can build in or embed stuff. And that's why H5P is so great, because you can truly diversify the content in your course, but your student experience doesn't have to be complicated. The students are still in D2L, they're still going back and forth within your content, they're still approaching your assessments in the same way, but you have given them opportunities to apply or recall knowledge that you've presented to them before they are being evaluated for a grade. And in essence, that's the whole pro of interactive content. Students are able to practice in a safe environment before they're graded on it in a more high stakes environment. And that's really the purpose. So, okay, so that is the 4 content types that I've chosen for this particular session. I did choose 4 other ones in the last webinar, so if you want to go back and watch the second half of that last webinar, you can. I'm also going to fix the visual aid in the recording of this so that you're able to actually see my presentation slides instead of not. So be sure to go back and capture that as well. I do want to call your attention to a couple of things. You are able to get all of our training resources. So if you click on, and I'll put the link in the chat, this website allows you to view all of our past workshops. So if there was a topic that you found interesting, but you weren't able to watch it, you can always go back and watch a recording of any of these webinars. We have them from 2018 as well. So if you have interest in any of these topics, you can always watch it after the fact if you didn't get a chance to participate in the live version. Another thing that I want to call your attention to is just the, and I'll put this in the chat, is just the D2L website. So ETSU.edu/D2L. This is going to give us access to instructor and student help information for D2L. We get a lot of instructors who ask if we have information for students. We have lots of information for students. They're able to see how to participate in discussions, how to get discussion grades, all that good stuff. So all of that information is on our D2L help website, and it is organized by user role. So instructors, your help information deals with how to build the stuff and how to grade the stuff and how to maintain the stuff. Student information is how to complete an activity, how to complete an assignment, how to submit something, all that good stuff. We also have the YouTube channel. So again, if you missed one of these, we do have an entire playlist of our training webinars available for access so that you can go back and view something that you may have missed. If I went over something too quickly, you can also go back and re-review that from this webinar too. Okay, so I'll put that in the chat as well. But that's pretty much all I have for today. I hope you guys found this information helpful, and I encourage you to go back, see if you have some opportunities to place some of these H5P elements in your class, and if so, go ahead and do it. It's completely free. The website can be a little bit cumbersome at first, but I encourage you to just kind of stick through it and acclimate to it and get used to the interface, and then in no time you'll be off to the races. Okay, so thanks for joining me. I'll end the recording now, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to hang on and take any questions that you have, or if